Welcome to Meal Plan application. In this particular application, we're going to use HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and also the local storage that is provided by the browsers to save data. In this particular application, we'll take input as meal name. For example, I can say pizza, and a user can enter what all does it have inside it, select a picture, and add that meal to the database, and it will be saved here below in a meal list. Next, I can use, let's say, chicken curry, chicken, choose file, so this one, add the meal, and we have the meals here. We can also have the capability of deleting it, and even if you refresh it, it's still there because we're going to save this into local storage. And this looks pretty good in any device on your mobile phones or on your laptops. So let's get rolling. So let's jump into building this meal plan project. Now I have created a folder already, and all the three files, index.html, javascript.js, and styles.css. I've opened them here in my editor. So index.html, styles.css, and scripts.js. Nothing is in there right now. Let me refresh the page and see there is nothing here. So perfect. So we'll start as usual with the coding in HTML. Also, again, one more time, if you have not looked at my previous 5 projects, I would probably say go look at them, because this will be a combined effort of all of them together into one single project. If you are already familiar much with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you can directly jump in, but if you need more information, I recommend you to start from the first video. But let's go ahead and start with this. So first, I'm going to go ahead and set up the doc type HTML. Let the document know it's a HTML document. Next, we'll start with the HTML tags with the language of English, that is what is specified here. Next, I'm going to create the header, and inside the header, my first meta tag will be the character set, which is UTF-8, which will cover all the character sets that are there. Next is the viewport. For viewport, I'm setting the width equal to device width, and I'm setting the initial scale as 1.2, so it looks good no matter where you open this website, on your mobile phones or on your laptops. Next, I'm going to set the title meal plan app. That's what I'm going to call it, which will be displayed as I mentioned earlier on the top here. And then next, the style sheet. So I'm going to linking the style sheet here, which is here. Right now there's nothing in here, so we'll not see anything fancy on this particular HTML page, but we'll go there next step. Next, I'm going to add the body tags, which will be the body elements here. First, we'll start with the container as usual. I'm going to create a layer here, which will be added in the center by styles later. First, I'm going to go and set the meal plan h1 tag. Next, I'm going to start creating the form. Now in this particular form, as you've seen in the demo before, earlier in this video, we'll have the meal name, which is a text placeholder meal name, and is required. So it looks like something like this. Next, I have the text area where you'll add all the ingredients for your meal, which will look like this, a text area which is easily flexible. Next, I have the file where you can add the meal image, which is image star, and that's the ID that I've given, meal image, and that will be added here. Next, I'm going to create a button, type submit, to add the meal to my database. So that's the add meal button. And then finally, this is where the meal plan will be visible. All the meals that you've entered in the database will be visible in here. And finally, do not forget to add your scripts tag, so the scripts can be added, so the script is linked properly when we write the logic to make everything come in place. That's the script.javascript here. So once I'm done with this, if you see here, this is how it looks like. Now going to make it a little prettier, so let's start with the body. For body, I'm going to use the same font family, Arial and sans serif, so which will make it look a little bit prettier. Background color is pound FF4F4F4, the usual slight gray, slight white. Display flex, justify content to center, align items to center, and height of 100 VH, which is viewport height, so that's 100% of the height, and margin of 0. So let's go ahead and look at it if it worked. Yep, perfect. So I have it in the center. Doesn't look good. Let's go ahead and work on the container. So the container that we have selected here, class container, since it's a class, we've added dot container. Give a background of white color, padding of 20 pixel, border radius of 5 pixel, box shadow 0, 0, 10 pixel, and RGBA of 0, 0, 0, 0.1. So it's very almost transparent. Text align to center, width 100%, and max width is 500 pixels. So that will make it look something like this. So it's nice shadow with border radius, looks good, the container. Next, we're going to go for the H1 tag, margin 0, 0, 20 pixel. So it looks a little bit nicer. Let's see. Perfect. Form display flex direction column. So that will make it in an orderly format because of the column flex direction. Next, I'm going to go and make the input type text and text area a little bit pretty by giving it some padding, border radius, and margin bottom. So it will look something like this, already coming together pretty nicely. So if we can increase this and stuff, so that looks good. Next, I'm going to give for the file, which doesn't look that pretty, give a margin bottom of 10 pixels. So there's some margin bottom there, it will look like this. And then for the button that we have, padding 10 pixel, border none, background color, the color of the text on the button, cursor to pointer, border radius, and margin bottom. So it looks greenish because of this color that we have given here. And there you go, that's the button. Next, the button hover, which is a little bit a darker color of green. That's perfect. Then the meal plan, which is margin 20 pixels, which is going to show up below as you saw here, meal plan. So we're not going to see any changes here, but I'll just set this up. Meal, background color, padding. So all these things, meal image will be used a little later because we have not even added any of those things here. But this part is for future, where I've given some class, and the image which will be displayed, I've already given styles for that. So that takes care of styles. Already looks pretty nice. Now let's go ahead and start with the script. So with script, as usual, we'll start with the DOM content loaded event. Listen to that event, and as soon as that event is loaded or the web page is loaded, we're going to run this function. So first step, let's get all the pointers or variables which are meal form first. Document.getElementId meal form, so that will get me the form in this particular constant. Next, I have meal name. I'll get the meal name from the text field. I'll get the meal ingredient from the text area. We'll get the meal image from the meal image, and meal plan, the meal plan which is at the bottom here, we're going to get all that particular place, so we can fill it up where from getting data from the database and displaying it. That's what it is for. And now let meals equal to json.parse local storage get item meals. Now if you look at the local storage, let's go ahead by going to application, local storage. We have post from previous one. I'm going to delete this, refresh it, so it's not there. That is post was from the previous video, but now I don't have any meals here. So when it tries to get local storage get item meals, it will get empty, so it's going to be nothing here, or assign an array. So in this case, what will happen is it will assign an empty array to this. So let's go next. Now save meals. This is a function that will save meals to local storage, which we'll be calling a little later, but we write the function here where I'm saying local storage set item meals. The value that I want to set it to is the meals array. So if I call this right now here, what it will do is it will take this empty array and save it in the local storage. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to undo that. Next, I'm going to do is call the render meal plan. So this will render the meal plan in the meal plan object here. So that is right below here, it will render it. So it's a little bit bigger. Let's look at it. So first I empty whatever is inside there. Inner HTML, I empty it. If I've added something before or after, I'm going to make sure that everything is cleared in this particular case. Then for each of the meal, I'm creating a div element first and adding a class of meal to it for that particular meal div, and that class is already defined here. This is what I'm adding, this background color, padding, and all that stuff, all the good stuff. Next, I'm going to create a element h3 for my meal name. So I take the meal name from the meal object and assign it to this particular h3, and I'm going to append the meal name item to the meal div. Next, I'm going to create a p, which is a paragraph item, and inside this I'm going to add all the ingredients and append it back to meal div. Then if the meal has an image URL, I'm going to create an image element and give the src to the image URL, and then meal div append child meal image append the meal image element to the meal div, and I'm going to create a button to delete this item. So if I don't want this meal item, I can always delete it. So using this delete button, the button's title will be delete, and when it's clicked, it's going to call a function called as delete meal and pass the meal ID to it. We'll look at this a little later. And finally, this delete button is added to the meal div. And finally, after everything, the meal div is added to the meal plan, which is this object, which is right here. So inside this, all the meals will be added. Right now it will not do anything because we don't have any meals, right? So first we'll have to add them. So first thing, let's go ahead and take the meal form and catch the submit event. So whenever user presses this submit button, which is the add meal button, I'm going to catch that, and I'm going to prevent the default happening, which is submitting the form, and instead of that I'll call this function. And inside this add meal function, which I'm going to write here, I'm going to say meal name dot value dot trim. So this will take the name that I have entered here. For example, if I enter chicken curry, it will trim that and assign it to here to the name. If I have space or something, it will make sure that it's cleaner. Ingredients, it's going to take the ingredients. So I am sure it will have chicken, it will have, let's say, cilantro, it will have salt, just the basic stuff. I have no idea, I'm not qualified chef, so I'm not gonna add all the things that I think is right, but for now I'm gonna put these ingredients, and that's what it's gonna assign to this constant. Finally, it's gonna look for, is there a meal image? So I'm gonna select an image, one of the two, which one looks like closer to, let's say this one looks like a chicken curry. These are the images that are available on my desktop, so that's what I've added. And if first I'm going to check if name and ingredients are empty, I'm going to just return. The image is not required. As you saw earlier, when we are displaying the image, we're checking if the image is available. That's when we create it, or else we don't care about the image. That's not required. But these two, name and ingredients, we want them. So if they're not specified by user, we're going to just skip out of adding meal. Now that I have everything, I'm going to go ahead and create a new meal object, add an ID by calling the date.now function. This will give me a Unix timestamp of current time, and that is unique, so I'm going to add that here. Usually this is not a good idea in a production level applications, because what if there's 10 users who are trying to insert meals into that, but since it's a personal application, I'm the only one using it. Or else you can use some other way of assigning IDs, which by using some UUID class JavaScript classes. You assign the name, ingredients, and the image URL. Next, I'm checking if the file exists. For this file is the image URL, the file, the image. If that exists, I'm gonna I'm gonna create a new file reader object, which will read the file, and it will assign new meal image URL to read as reader.result, whatever it reads from that particular file. And finally, it will push the new meal into the meals array. Then I'm going to call the save meals function, which we have created right above here, where it saves these meals to the local storage. Then it will render the meal, which we have created here. It will render that, and then it will reset the form. Reset form we'll write a little later. Then I'm going to say reader read as data URL. So it's going to read all the data object and assign from the file and assign it there. Now finally, if this file doesn't exist, we're just going to push whatever we have, the new meal object, into the meals. We don't need the image into this particular object. So next, after this, we're going to look at delete meal. Delete meal is called right here when the delete meal function is when the delete meal button is clicked and we pass the meal ID. So in this case, it's going to look at the ID, it's going to filter the meal, it's going to create a meals array, take the meals array and filter everything except for a meal that matches that ID, and then save those meals and render it. So what I'm doing is I'm not actually deleting something, I am ignoring it. I'm just saying, oh, I don't want it anymore from the meals, and then I'm going to save the new meals array into the, so it's kind of like deleting but not deleting. Finally, reset form. The reset form will make sure that all the fields are empty after this thing is done. And now we go and initialize the app by calling render meal plan. So this render meal plan will render this particular file, this object here. So if you see render meal, what it does is it will take all the meals and add it at the bottom here. Since we have not added anything yet, it will not do anything. So let's go ahead and run this particular application, or play with this application right now. I'm going to use the same thing, chicken. What all did I have? I have salt, I'll have pepper, I don't know other stuff. So I'm gonna choose the file. I said we'll use this image, and I'm gonna add that meal, and you see that image and everything is added here. We also have the delete button if I want to delete it. Say pizza, which has bread, which has tomato, which has cheese. Choose a file. I think this is the image. I'm going to add this image and add the meal. So I was able to add 2 meals. Now I'm not going to go too much into detail into or adding more items, but I can add more. But let's go ahead and look at how we can delete items. I can click on this delete, and that's gone. If you look at inspect and look at our application and see here, meals has one object here, which is pizza that we created. I can go ahead and add again one more, that same item, or I'll add something else. What do I have on the desktop? Let's see. I have pasta. Let's add pasta. Pasta has cheese, tomato, and pasta. Choose file, this one, add meal, and it's added. Now if I go ahead, inspect, go to my application, now you see 2 items in your local database. If I refresh it, it will still be there. Oh, it thinks that I'm in a Italian version of the website because we have pizza and pasta. But if I refresh it, you'll see that it's still there. It doesn't go anywhere because it's saved in the local storage. So this is the entire application. Try it out. Let me know if you have questions. If you had any issues, I'll leave them in the comments below. Thank you.